Some people lose bounce and speed and endurance in athleticism when they go on a really strict, very clean diet. This is one of my most controversial posts ever. First, let's watch the video. Losing your bounce on a strict diet. This sounds crazy, but I've actually heard this from numerous athletes. I think I know what's going on here. It's not the clean eating that's the problem. It's the fact that you pack down way less calories when you get rid of processed foods and fast foods and foods that taste really, really good to you, because those things you tend to just overconsume, and they're not the best for you, but they do help you meet your energy demands and your carbohydrate demands. Then you go to clean eating and you just can't pack down enough food due to increased satiety, due to boredom, due to lack of meal prep. When we consistently undereat, we don't recover very well. Our anabolic hormones go down, our catabolic or stress hormones go up, and we become weaker and we become less explosive. A lot of times when you start eating clean, you also pack down way less carbohydrates. That's the number one fuel source for fast twitch muscle fibers. So you shouldn't be surprised that if you're not eating enough carbohydrates, that you feel less explosive. The final reason why I think a lot of people feel a lack of explosiveness or lack of energy, they feel overtrained the moment they go on that strict diet, is a lack of sodium. You're sweating out a lot of sodium as an athlete, and then we might not be replenishing it when we're eating super clean, unless you're paying attention to adding salt to your foods, maybe even take an electrolyte supplement. I like upper echelon hydrate myself, but these are things to consider. So first of all, there's a lot of hate from people who don't get it, who think I was just telling people you should eat unhealthy. I'm telling you, this is what I see. A lot of elite athletes go on a strict diet, they undereat, and they underfuel in terms of carbohydrates, and they get rid of a lot of their sodium intake, and their performance drops. Now, like I said in the video, that doesn't mean that clean eating is bad. It's just you have to be so careful in how you go about getting enough calories and getting enough carbohydrates and getting enough sodium. Maggie, who does really good work in the nutrition space, says relative energy deficiency syndrome, especially from disordered eating, is huge and something not talked about in male versus female athletes. We always talk about female athletes under eating. Male athletes, we don't really talk about it. It's just as big of a problem. When you're under eating as an athlete, not only are you increasing risk of injury and decreasing performance, we have major health issues. It affects your heart. You can develop heart disorders from working your butt off in the gym and then under eating, or like under eating sodium. You can have major implications for the electrical impulses in your heart. This can really be like life-threatening. Like under eating is a huge deal. She says low caloric intake increases low levels of testosterone, poor bone health, which leads to bone stress injuries, and low resting metabolism, right? Your metabolism kind of just shuts down and makes it harder and harder to lose weight. So now you're not even fueling, you're depleted of nutrients, and you're still not losing weight because your metabolism already adjusted to it. The Grill Guy, this is a comedian, he said, problem for me is I see these posts and then tell myself I'm an athlete, then eat Wendy's every day for the next 10 days. My response was permission granted. Mr. Do It Moving says, this dude is on the mark. David Weck, great post. Like the people who are trainers and like have really been in it, they understand this. People who don't have experience don't get it because they think that like all processed food is the devil at all times. Okay, now Dr. William Wallace, genius in the space, he says precisely, and he gave a light bulb emoji. Now, before I address the haters on this post, let me just talk about this and give it a little more context. So again, I'm not saying your goal should be eating ultra processed foods, eating fast foods, eating sweets. What I'm saying is, as an athlete who's working out multiple times per day, your energy demands are so high. Now, especially someone under, in their teens or under 20, under 24, where you could potentially still be growing, you need calories, you need energy to fuel that process of growth. Plus you're trying to rebuild muscle. Plus you're trying to have all the energy for the court and the weight room. And so your energy demands are so high. When you're eating processed foods, you eat a lot of it. It's easy to pack down. That's their whole goal in making these foods is I want it to taste good and I want you to be able to pack down a lot of it. So You know, you go to McDonald's, you fill yourself up. You eat a lot of refined carbohydrates, it's easy to fill yourself up. Now you switch over to a clean diet. And what is clean? Everybody has a different definition. But basically, like the cleanest is people talking about you should only eat meat and fruit and vegetables, no starchy carbs, no white rice, all that stuff. That's not sustainable for an elite anaerobic athlete. And when you do that, you end up falling very short on calories because, first of all, that's a very high protein diet, which is great, but you fill yourself up a lot sooner. Two, there's boredom, right? Like if I'm eating salmon and a sweet potato and vegetables, I'm going to be bored eating it and just bored chewing before I get super full. And so I'm going to stop eating just because I'm tired of it. I'm tired of the taste. Whereas processed foods, give me some pizza rolls, I'm packing it down until I've gotten 2,000 calories. Also, a lack of meal prep, like these things you need to actually cook. And so some student athletes don't have the ability to cook that many meals. And then the final piece that I talked about was the ultra processed foods comes with a lot of salt. The manufacturers do this because a lot of salt makes the food taste better. Now, athletes sweat out a lot of sodium. And so when you're eating some processed foods, you're replenishing that sodium. Now, sodium is important for everything, general health, like I said, heart health, but every muscle contraction relies on sodium. And so you can get really fatigued and really weak by being even just a little bit deficient in sodium. You start eating clean and the home-cooked meals don't come with as much sodium. So that's why when you're eating home-cooked meals, you need to be adding salt to every meal. And a lot of people just don't, and they don't add enough because a lot of us grew up eating processed foods, and I never had to think about sodium, right? I never even had that consideration because it's already so high in sodium that you would never need to think about adding more salt. And so I think that's one major reason why some people do feel super depleted and less athletic when they start eating super clean. So what's the solution? Like this guy said, so basically Chipotle for the win. Yeah, Chipotle for the win. Stuff like that where it is high quality, real food, but it also tastes good. You can also pack it down. Clean eating for an athlete and clean eating for a normal 9-to-5 worker, very, very, very different things. I do think maybe 80% of your diet should come from the all real food, from meat and vegetables, fruit. And then for athletes, I love a sweet potato, even regular potatoes, rice. I like those added in there. If you're having a hard time holding on to weight and you need even more, then I would move to like a bread, pasta. And this also depends on your metabolism, right? We're talking about in this scenario, it's like somebody who has a hard time holding on to weight. They're burning a lot of energy. They're trying to gain weight or at least maintain. And so, yeah, like you don't have to be so strict on the carbohydrates. Sometimes some refined carbohydrates and some sugar it's not the end of the world because A, you're going to burn it off. B, you're going to store a lot of it as glycogen because your body needs it for the next workout. But also, you know, with more refined carbs, you do get more of an insulin spike, and insulin can be anti-catabolic. That's why like bodybuilders literally inject insulin. I'm not saying to do that. But I think there is a benefit to adding some refined carbs, like a white rice or a white bread occasionally, or straight sugar, right? NFL, NBA, these guys are known for eating candy before the game. There's a superstar who keeps candy in his sock. He takes the candy out of his sock in the game and he eats it. But yeah, and I've noticed that like a lot of these fast twitch freaks that I've trained, they have a bigger sweet tooth. Why? Because the fast twitch are fueled off of glucose. And so they burn it, and therefore their cravings say, hey, we need more of that to replenish. Otherwise, I'm going to die. I'm not going to be able to keep going at this rate. And so you actually develop a taste for it. And so a lot of these guys are snacking on candy throughout the day. Again, I'm not saying that's 100% necessary. it's possible that you could get a cleaner source. Instead of straight to the candy, maybe you do some honey. Um, Instead of the candy, maybe you do a sweet potato, which is going to provide more micronutrient benefits as well, whereas the candy is just providing the sugar. And the sweet potato is going to break down to glucose. It's going to break down to sugar. And so, if you eat enough of the high quality carbohydrate sources, now your body has what it needs, and now you don't have those same cravings, most likely, in most cases. So in general, I think it's a good idea to get about 80-85% of your food through high quality meats and fruits and vegetables and sweet potato and some white rice. And then you leave 20% open for, okay, I'm still hungry. I still need to pack down some foods, a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I remember there's this whole argument going on in the Warriors organization because they loved peanut butter and jelly sandwiches on the plane. And the nutritionist came in and said, well, it's processed, we can't have that. And they freaked out. And they ended up negotiating, bringing back the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. So, having that occasionally, having some sugar, having some candy, whatever, like that extra 20% in your diet, you do whatever you want. Now, some people, like where I'm at, I'm 35 years old, so I can't handle 20% of BS in the diet, and I'm not burning as much energy as I used to as an athlete. So I need to be like 90-10. I need to be very clean on the diet. My metabolism's just not working the same. My amount of energy burned is not the same. And so my processed food consumption has to be much less. And if I do increase it, I do get fat because I tend to overeat it and I'm not burning enough calories to justify that. But an active athlete is in such a different scenario, right? A growing athlete. I see a lot of parents putting their kids on the most strict diets. They're gonna get bored of eating just meat and vegetables, and they're gonna end up just not eating enough calories. And then they're probably gonna stunt their growth because they don't have enough energy. That's number one for growth is, do I have enough calories? After I go play tag at recess and play basketball in the afternoon and go do all these other things, do I have enough energy to still fuel my growth? And I think a lot of times the overly strict diet, people end up eating so much less calories. Like, get your high quality food, add in some cheat meals on top of that, completely fine. You monitor weight. Yes, if you're becoming overweight because you're eating so much processed foods and it's taking you over your budget on calories, then yeah, you cut back. All right, now let's look for some haters and see what they're saying. There's quite a lot of it on this post. This guy says, majority of athletes are in their teens or early 30s, which are years where the food you consume does not affect you as much as in comparison to athletes or casual athletes at 35 plus. So that's pretty much what I was saying. Yeah, things change, right? So the active athlete might get away with 50% processed, 50% clean. I don't at 35. So yeah, that's actually a good point. So a lot of the comments kept on saying Ocho is right. And I was like, what does that even mean? And then I remembered that Chad Ochocinco, had this video about how he would eat McDonald's every day. And he was trying to convince one of the other receivers he was on the podcast with that it's better, that the only way you stay healthy is to have something like McDonald's every day instead of the clean eating. And they had a great argument. I think it was with Cam Newton. They're having an argument, and everybody kind of trashed Ochocinco's idea. And yes, I think it's largely wrong. Like, you don't have to have McDonald's every day. He saw people going super clean and depleting themselves, and those fast twitch didn't want to work anymore, and they didn't have the energy. He was at least well fed. He at least had enough calories, enough carbs, and enough sodium to go do what he does. Is that the best for him? Maybe not. But again, that's way better than under eating when you're eating clean foods. So he is partially right on that. This guy says, yeah, but I eat 4,000 calories per day clean. Okay, like I said, it's possible. It's just not as easy. And so you have to pay very close attention to adding in the things that you're now not getting as easily. Most athleticism I've ever had was when I was downing a half a dozen of donuts and drinking a half gallon of milk every day. Yeah, so, you know, you got to be careful with the anecdotes. Sometimes there is some truth in there, and then sometimes it's just correlation but not causation, right? He was probably 19 years old at the peak, so he could have done anything. So maybe that's not why he was athletic. He was just at that age, which allowed him to handle that and thrive despite the diet. This guy said, back to McDonald's I go. No, 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 no. This is the problem with social media. You can't get across ideas without people misconstruing everything. 100% clean eating is for bodybuilders, not athletes. Even bodybuilders, though. I had a lot of bodybuilders, professional level bodybuilders DMing me saying, like, if I eat clean in my off season, when I'm trying to bulk, I can't gain muscle. So that's actually a technique that's been used for decades. It's called the dirty bulk. Yeah, if your body needs 8 to 10,000 calories a day, which not a lot of people do, but maybe like a Michael Phelps, he says, if you need 8 to 10,000 calories a day to maintain, chicken and broccoli ain't gonna cut it. Agreed. So this guy says that last one is key, the point about sodium. He says the amount of athletes I've seen that feel so much better after adding an electrolyte supplement with 800 to 1,000 milligrams of sodium during training or a few times throughout the day is incredible. Yes, and that's another point I wanted to bring up. So easy plug for our supplement line, Upper Echelon. We made a hydration supplement. It's an electrolyte formula with 1,000 milligrams of sodium. It is a game changer in this scenario where you're sweating out a lot of sodium, you're eating clean, so you're not quite getting enough. Now, I would not take an electrolyte formula with 1,000 milligrams of sodium if you're eating a lot of fast food and you're constantly eating out. You're already good on sodium. But yes, you see a huge difference in an athlete's performance when they actually get enough electrolytes, enough sodium. A standard sports drink is so low on sodium. It's just nowhere near enough sodium to actually make a difference. All right, I'm scrolling through and I can't find all the hate comments. I remember when I was reading this, as I was posting it, there was like a lot of haters. Now it's only showing me all the comments that actually make sense from really smart people. So that's about it. I don't know what else to add to this, but let me know your thoughts in the comments. Has this happened to you? Have you noticed a drop in performance if you get overly strict on the diet? Or have you found that balance where you can eat all clean food, but still force yourself to get enough and be adequate in calories, carbs, and sodium? Let me know in the comments. Until next time, I'm out.